This Sunday, we celebrate the Feast of Christ the King. We end the liturgical year by claiming Jesus as not only the King of the world, but the King of our hearts and our lives. And as Americans, the idea of a king is not part of our daily ritual. We know kings from history books, from TV shows, from movies. We see the Queen of England on TV. But when we think of kings, we often think of the icon behind me with crowns and scepters. People who live very different lives, that live in fairy tale castles or palaces, people who are very removed from our everyday lives. But interestingly enough, as we celebrate Christ the King this weekend, the gospel we're going to hear is that our King Jesus is not removed from our daily lives. As a matter of fact, unlike the Queen that I have to travel to Buckingham Palace or go somewhere to find her, we find our King all around us. As Jesus reminds us in the gospel, whatever you do for the least of my brothers and sisters, you do for me. We find Jesus in the poor, the forsaken, the forgotten, the hungry, the thirsty, the sick, those in prison, those on the margins, those that are all around us that sometimes we ignore is where we find our King. And it's good to realize that unlike earthly kings and queens, who we have to go to them in a palace or somewhere very much unlike our ordinary lives, our King, the King of our hearts, Jesus Christ, is literally all around us. Because every time I reach out in love to heal or to give of myself to someone suffering, I serve the King. Every time I feed the poor, give drink to the thirsty, I serve my King. Every time I reach out in love to someone that the rest of the world overlooks, I serve my King. You know, earthly kings want from their subjects jewels and riches, power, land, and prestige. But our heavenly King wants something completely different. He wants our love. He wants us to love him and to serve him by loving and serving one another. And we try to get the favor or the appreciation of an earthly monarch by giving them something rare, something expensive, something that is out of the ordinary. But what our King of heaven is looking for is those ordinary, everyday acts of love that when we give to one another, we give to him. So this weekend, as we celebrate Christ the King, let's remember always that our King doesn't live in a far-off land or in a palace, but our King lives all around us, in the poor, the forgotten, anyone who has a need. And our King delights when we serve him and show our love to him by doing those acts of love and service to one another. Whatever you do for the least of my brothers and sisters, you do for me. As we celebrate this weekend the Feast of Christ the King, let's give our King a gift he's looking for, not a precious stone, a piece of land, or a crown, but instead, let us give him the service, the love, and the compassion he's looking for by reaching out to one another so that we can truly not only serve, but honor Christ, our King.